wanna do, I already done it. And I got your little boo telling me she love me. I got this one, that one, damn, it's gonna be a long night.
Hello guys, what is up? It is me, Prince of What Ifs here with What If Asta was Yuta's reincarnation. First off, I know I made a whole trailer showing this thumbnail right here, but yes, I'll be using this one as a show of support to my boy, Crown Fiend. Also, it just looks good, so why not? We did not work on it together, but shout outs to him and Golden for deciding to spread this challenge. So when the series ends, I will call out someone as well, so be ready for that. And before I get into it, I will apply cursed energy to the world of magic in certain terms of Yuta's abilities. I'm bringing in powers that I believe he would have copied in his lifetime before reincarnating. So this will be a significantly older Yuta reincarnating. So don't get surprised when I make him use something super unexpected. And he will not be able to copy magical abilities as soon as he sees them. I'll have a whole process for it. So unless it's also a curse related or devil related magic, he will not be able to use it. I just want to keep it balanced that way, and it makes sense. So thank Black Clover for having curse magic. Point is, I'm trying to keep balance. He will still be OP though, don't worry. I am that guy. I got you. And with all of that, you know what to do, and I will get right into the story. So relax, lay back, and let's get into the video. Asta. Hearing his name being called over and over again, a 7-year-old Asta would open his eyes to see Father Orsi. What's going on? Come on, it's night. A surprised Asta would sit up, asking if he really slept for that long, and Orsi says it's quite alright. He would get up and dust himself off before then following Orsi to the front of the orphanage and to the door, and he would the door open to show his orphan family waiting for him, which was now just Yuno, sister Lily, and Nash. Come on, Asta, Yuno would say, as Asta would then say, alright, sorry I'm late. He then goes to the table and sits down as they begin to dine on what may not be much, but it is all they have. And while they eat, Asta hasn't thought, oh, I never thought I'd be the one reincarnating. Figured to be Gojo-sensei. Right, Rika? We then fade to black, and the next day, Asta, aka Yuta, will be jumping to the top of the giant skull near his village, and as he envelops himself with cursed energy, he will make it soon to the top in the blink of an eye, before then sitting down and staring down at his new home. This honestly still doesn't feel real to him, even though it's been so long. And the last thing he remembers was a giant explosion. All memories up until the final attack and the end of the war against Kenjaku, I guess you could say, just stop when that explosion happens, and then nothing. Rika also says with a bored tone as a crack would erupt behind him, oozing a black energy before it then turns into a piece of the Queen of Curses, Rika Arimoto. He would inspect this current Rika and find that it is as strong as it ever was when it was in his heyday, but he was the one who got weaker. Well, first things first, apparently, I'm weak in this world. People can feel my cursed energy, but they can't register it. Instead, they use magic. Then how can I still use cursed energy? As this thought wanders his mind, Rika would then say, because you're human, Yuta. Asta hearing this then chuckles, saying, I guess that is the only answer, huh? Maybe there might be some use for me here, though. Let's do our best. Rika would nod, and the sun would soon set, and now we're going to talk about how people have been perceiving Asta. And he is, of course, magicless, and therefore thought to be talentless, but he isn't weak. Along with this incredible physical strength he has displayed, Asta can be terrifying when he wants to, and exude this pressure that just completely freezes you in your tracks. It's quite bizarre, honestly. That's how people see his they don't really see his cursed energy, but they feel it, and it is terrifying innately. But everyone likes him because he's as sweet as they come. He only gets mad when people mess with his siblings. On a certain day, while Asta and Yuno are coming back from delivering something in the city, snow will start to fall, but then they are met by a drunk man. Asta doesn't even try to talk to this man, instead grabbing Yuno, saying, come on. Oh, okay, Yuno would say. They're about to leave, but the man would then get in their way, saying, hey, don't you know how to... Before he can even continue, Asta would appear in front of him with a kick to his face with such force that he sent flying through the air and would crash into a wall, causing many people to come out of their homes to see what happened. They don't see Asta or Yuno, but they'll gather to see the man who had his lights knocked out. I don't know how this happened, but he's been doing too much lately. He finally met someone who showed him his place, huh? Meanwhile, Asta and Yuno will be walking back home already, with Yuno fanboying as he asks how Asta is so strong without magic. You hit him like once and you move so fast and you just went so easy, you look so cool while doing it. Well, that's because I'm strong as hell, Asta would say, as Yuno would admire this confidence, saying that he wishes that he could be like Asta, and Asta stops, saying he can. But first, you're gonna need a goal. A goal? Yuno would ask. Asta then nods, and Yuno thinks about it before then saying, the Wizard King. I'm gonna be the Wizard King. Good. Guess what I'm gonna be, Asta would say. Yuno then asks what he was gonna be, and Asta says, the world's strongest. Pretty cool, right? Yuta would then say he will surpass that, to which Asta is surprised, but then he puts his fist out saying he will not back down, and just like that, they will begin their promise, but it is slightly altered. Time skip 8 years. We begin with the gathering of everyone at the Grimoire Tower. Whether they be commoners or nobles or those who tilt in between the classes, they show up and prepare to receive their grimoires. They would flood the tower and stand in it while talking about how excited they were, but of course nobles will be nobles, and especially towards someone like Yuno, who raced the stereotype of a basic commoner. He was being attacked because, though they did not want to admit it, he was intimidating, but not as intimidating as a certain someone. Yuno looks around carefully, as with a still face he thought, I wonder where he is. The kids didn't come here unaccompanied. They came here with their parents or certain guardians or family members, and this includes some of the orphans in Hage, and more specifically Asta's siblings. Did you guys see Asta today? Rika would ask, and Nash says nah, but I saw him get out of bed super early for some reason. Well, don't worry, Sister Lily would say. Sister Lily's words are then cut short by a domineering and frankly creepy presence, and everyone feels it. It fills the very tower and freezes everyone as they slowly turn to see Asta run in, and with a wide smile he would then say, oh sorry, I got held up. He runs in while turning to say hi to his siblings, who wave back, saying they still cannot get used to that when he just comes out of nowhere. So that's him, right? That weird commoner? Yeah, I heard he has no magic, so why is he even here, right? If he has no magic, then what the hell was that? Asta then runs to Yuno as he apologizes for being late, but he says it's no problem. This would draw everyone's attention to the Grimoire Elder who had done this, and with a nervous sweat he would then say, alright, let's get right into it. I assume you're ready to begin your new lives. I have high expectations for all of you. With hopeful looks, everyone then nods, and the Elder would raise his arms into the air, calling for the beginning of the ceremony. With this, grimoires would start to fall and float towards the rightful masters, whether they be purple, blue, red, or yellow. It was all types of grimoires that gathered that day, obviously, and they were released with each different amount of clover leaves. Hey, Asta would say, want to see why I went out so early today? Did you go looking for something? Would ask, and Asta would then nod, and he's about to tell him something, only for him to freeze as he smiles, confusing but then he sees that many more behind Asta have looks of shock, just as a blinding green light would then explode from behind, and slowly turns to see a 4-leaf clover, which would float to him, and he would catch it. A 4-leaf? How is that possible? He's just a simple commoner. Then grows a smile as he raises the grimoire into the air, saying, I'm gonna be the Wizard King. This declaration will make commoners erupt with cheers and applause, while the nobles are sour, and Asta of course claps for his brother. The applause soon dies down, however, when someone then says, hey, where's this grimoire? All eyes turn to Asta, who would look around, seeing that everyone else had a grimoire but him, and there was no grimoire coming for him, so he says, I guess I don't have one. Everything goes quiet before the nobles would then explode with laughter, calling Asta a loser, and the commoners, however, do not laugh, not even one bit, and some of them even look nervous with thinking, yeah, they don't know who they're messing with. Even with this, I don't think I could ever beat Asta. Asta, however, takes the ridicule because his strength cannot be measured by magic anyway. The Elder would then make the nobles stop before telling Asta that, well, he should have better luck next time, and he would smile while nodding. A few moments later, the ceremony has ended, and we go find the brothers somewhere near the tower as they would sit down looking at the sunset. Why don't you show Rika back there? Would ask. Are you crazy? Asta would say. They would have been scared. She probably would have killed them. I know, that's why you should have, would say this. They never shut up, This makes Asta laugh, and laughs along, just as when they then hear, hey, what the hell are you laughing at? You then turn to see two angry nobles demand for Yuno's grimoire. That isn't something that a commoner should have anyway, just hand it over. Asta would then say, hey, just leave now. The nobles, while scared of Asta's presence, would say that with their grimoires, Asta doesn't stand a chance, only to be grabbed from behind and squeezed tight as they then look down to see the arms of a gigantic pale-skinned creature. Yuta, can I kill them? The very voice of this creature would frighten the nobles who were too scared to even wonder what was holding them. They couldn't even turn back, and they couldn't even budge as the strength of this creature was immense. But more importantly, they don't know how this is possible because Asta has no magic, but he seems to be the only one that was doing this to them. Rika, it's okay. I'll call you back later, Asta would say. Rika, as if pouting like a child, would then say okay, and she warps away, and the terrified nobles would fall to their knees with heavy breath, and their hearts were beating so fast that they thought it was going to pop out of their chests. And as they slowly look up to see Asta, he shows a cold, indifferent look that makes them run away, causing to laugh so hard that his stomach begins to hurt. What are you, a psychopath? Rika would have ripped into shreds. I mean, don't get me wrong, she's really scary, but I really can't stand when people look down on you. Asta is happy to hear this and says it's okay. Oh, also let me show you what I found. He holds his hand out, and a pocket space would open up, letting a grimoire fall out, much to the shock of who would inspect and notice something. A 5-leaf? I know, right? Asta would say. By this point, Yuno has been seeing Asta do some pretty insane things, which he only shows to the orphanage and him, himself. So nothing he ever does makes sense, but it's just so fascinating, And some villagers, like, the reason why the other commoners didn't say anything, because first off, they see Asta do something that was insane, but it's only secluded to their kind of like group, because no nobles would ever believe it until they saw it. And I'll just do a flashback later, but the point is, it's just bizarre, but it's just fascinating, like stuff like that. And they just respect Asta because he's a nice guy. Why would you ever want to hate on a guy who just helps you out, even though he has no magic, So as they begin to talk, Asta's eyes would actually slightly curl off, looking to the side, and we see a terrified Revchi hiding behind a wall as he covers up his mouth in complete fear. What the fuck was that thing? It shouldn't even be something that can exist. How can some magicless kid... His words are then cut short by his head being grabbed, and by the hand of Rika, she would squeeze and tighten her grip, crushing his head, killing him in an instant before he can make a sound, and Asta would act like nothing ever happened. After this, the two take 6 months to train. For Yuno, it's about getting stronger, but for Asta, it's about him regaining power he used to have. So to increase his power of cursed energy, he would do stuff like meditate, and overall just keep training and building up his intense emotions. And he also trains with a sword, which is his best weapon, and he's pretty good at it. He's pretty much like master level by the time he died, and this leads to him meeting a certain someone that Asta met in the original, but I'll mention him later. You know who it is. It's Kruger. So after training for 6 months, they then head out to the Clover capital, and as they arrive, the two would stand in line for their number. Eventually, Yuno goes up to the receptionist, who then asks for his grimoire, and he would say, "Here," as he would then hand over his 4-leaf grimoire. And instantly, the man is astonished. A 4-leaf? His screams are heard by everyone down the line, who begin to murmur, and some of them look to see if he was truly carrying a 4-leaf, and he was. So, can I get in or not? Yuno would ask. Oh, yes, of course, go right in. Sorry about that. He gives Yuno the number 34, and then Asta walks up next, and then holds his hand out, and from nothing, from like like the air itself, his grimy, dirty grimoire would fall into his hand, much to the surprise of everyone. And with a smile, he then shows the grimoire to the man, who says, I can't really tell how many leaves there are. Was it formed just like this? That's how I got it, Asta would say. Despite being suspicious, the man then lets him go in, and he gives him the number 35, and Asta would enter, putting away the grimoire, and as soon as he walks in, he has many eyes on him, because not only was a commoner, they felt no magic from him, but they also had this weird premonition about him, like, don't talk to that guy, and it was bizarre. Why is he even here, someone said, only to be pecked by a magic bird, and his friend would laugh at him, only to be pecked himself. Man, look at that guy, he doesn't even have anything bothering him. He talks about Yuno, of course, who stands at the Colosseum, and not a single bird approaches his vicinity, which impressed many noble girls and made some of the boys annoyed because he seemed to be flaunting himself. I wonder what he's doing, Yuno thought. Yuno looks to see Asta and finds that he has no birds even approaching him, and one of them actually landed on his head, but that was about it. And even then, that was weird, but then he noticed something else. Wait a minute, those birds are scared? The birds are quite literally shaking in the presence of Asta, and as more and more people come in, they noticed this and found this to be very weird. But Asta was just standing there waiting for the beginning of the exam. During this, he also tried to talk to Nero, who landed on his head, and Asta would say, "So, what exactly are you?" Nero remained still and with no words, and Asta would sigh, saying, "Well, when you feel like talking, I'll be here. I don't have much of a choice, do I?" As he says this, his ears then pick up murmuring, and he sees people talking about Yami, who walks onto the scene with Gordon and Fernando behind him. And Asta instantly takes notice of his katana. It's an authentic one. Who is that man, he thought. Yami, while taking a puff from his cigarette, would then say he needed to take a shit, showing his black bull robe, and Asta became interested in joining that squad. "Sorry that I kept you waiting," Vangelis would say, and his familiar voice turns everyone's attention elsewhere as they look up to see Vangelis and the captains arrive, and their very presence makes the magic birds flap their wings and exit the stage, except for Nero. And Fernando would then nervously tell Yami that they need to go. "Fine," Yami would say. "Huh?" He then tries to see someone that he thought he felt the presence of, but the presence was gone and there was no one there. But for now, he shrugged his shoulders off, and he shrugged it off and left to the stands. "Oh wow, it's really them, the captains. I heard Captain Vangelis might be in the next line for Wizard King, Alright, I'll be taking leave for the first test, if that's okay with everyone," Vangelis would say. To this question, he gets a very resounding yes and claps all around as they shout his name, saying that they wish they could join his squad. Hearing this, Vangelis would then open his grimoire, and he would start to gather magic, and using his world tree magic, he creates many brooms that would slowly float down to the participants down below, who catch them. A flying test, Asta thinks, as Nero would then intently be looking to see what he would do next. Meanwhile, Von Johns explains the test and has someone from his squad demonstrate what they must do. Doing this is the most basic form of magic and mana control, so if you fail to fly, that means you are nowhere near to fight for the kingdom. Now, begin. Hearing this, they quickly start as Von John sits down along with the other captains and he begins to watch. Some rise, some stagnate, and some cannot even get off the floor. But then from the crowd, two exceptional boys will show themselves. Yuta rises into the air with ease on his brooms, as does Asta, but the thing is, without a broom, Fuegoleon thought, as Asta had dropped his broom and was only flying by himself, and this shocked Nero, who was on his head, and he flew with no trouble. That's just insane. This left everyone baffled, as this shouldn't be possible, and Noelle would ask, "They're commoners from Hage, correct?" Von just then nods, with the captains, despite not understanding Asta, wanting him in their squad, because whatever he did, whatever he had, they could not let the other captains have it. But because they haven't seen much else, their choice is indefinite. Of course, is quite easily acknowledged, especially due to his Grimoire, and would then say, "Since when could you fly?" Asks, "You're not using Rika?" Asta would then smile, saying, "I learned it from someone." You could say it like that. While he wonders who could have possibly taught him such a thing or how he learned such a thing, it's just gonna let it slide because Asta has done much weirder stuff, and he cannot even admit any mana. Like, it's just bizarre to everyone. It's just weird. I'm gonna be saying bizarre a lot because using the word of world of Jujutsu and putting that with magic is just weird. Soon, everyone is told by the captains to calm down, and they have seen enough. And people, as he lands down with people will be saying like, "How the hell is he even doing that? Is he hiding his magic somehow?" Seke is left baffled, only to stare to just see the guy who thought he was gonna be like outshined easily and use him as a pawn, outshine him instead, and it was just something that kind of made him sad. The next test was a moving target test, and as the targets fly about for each individual, without even using his Grimoire, releases a sharp ray of wind that destroys it, to the shock of the captains, who know he just used Mana Zone. To everyone else, it just looked like he gathered a lot of magic, which he did. And however, this look of shock is overtaken by Asta, who, as he sees his target move about, would soon hold his hand out and a crack would form out of nowhere, and out of it falls a hilt, and then he grabs it and rips out a katana, and this catches the attention of Yami, and Yami would then think, how does he have that? As he thought this, Asta then swung forward, and using cursed energy, while it is invisible to everyone, would destroy the target. Well, that's like 30%, Asta thought. Good enough, I guess. Maybe it's because I'm right atop him, but I feel I'm the only one who can feel this. No, this man is a monster, Nero thought. The following tests that continue for the target test, Asta, the stone target, Asta uses the same move and easily passes. Then the creation portion, and as everyone creates something out of an element or maybe makes an illusion, Asta would grab and pluck out his hair. "Ooh, I wonder what he's gonna do this time," Dill would say, as with the excited tone, he cannot wait for Asta to do something insane again, and as Asta holds his hair out, he would then burst with this eerie energy which freezes everyone in their tracks, and their magic spells would deactivate as they turn to see this creepy creature, a Shikigami with bat-like appearance, but with the face of it looked like the face of Rika, but it had sharp teeth, and it was the size of a full adult male, and it terrified them. I guess I should have warned you, sorry about that. The Shikigami would then screech before then disappearing into thin air, and Asta would apologize for the intrusion. "It's quite alright," Von just would say, "but I guess we were all just a bit startled. Seems like you have passed this portion, most of you at least, so let's move on to the next one." He makes way for Fuegoleon, who then walks up while he goes to take a seat, and with crossed arms, Fuegoleon would then speak. "Pair up, or challenge someone into a duel. Show us what you got. Should you fail to live up to our standards, it is the end of your journey. Would anyone like to go?" A certain noble then raises her hand, saying, "I would like to fight the magicless boy." This is when Fuegoleon looks to Asta, who would nod, and Fuegoleon says to make way for them, and as such the two walk out, and a circle is formed around them, and people will be saying like, "She looks pretty familiar. Isn't she from the Marigold family? They've been pretty strong lately, and she's like their only daughter. I heard she's really good at magic." The noble named V would point her wand to Asta with her Grimoire floating, as she then smiles, and as she pulls back her hair, she would then say, "Bow down." "Wait, what?" Asta would say. "Have you never been disciplined by your betters?" V would say. And Asta thought, yep, she's one of those people. V would then laugh before her smile turns to that of seriousness, saying, "Seriously, why are you still standing?" She would point to Asta, who then senses something, as he would then duck down, just as a huge explosion goes off, and quickly he starts running while the girl keeps attacking with explosion after explosion, which makes everyone think that he was done for. But they were too focused on the huge attack to see that Asta didn't even see phased. He was then about to counterattack, but something happens. An even creepier and terrifying presence sets in, and even the captains are greatly affected by it. V finds it hard to even breathe as she then falls to her knees just as she hears the warbling voice of Rika. "Don't bully Yuta!" Quickly she looks up and sees what could only be described as a monster. She stares down the queen of curses as everyone would see it manifest, and with a malicious aura, she would scream, making everyone grab onto their ears in pain. And then Rika swung at the incapacitated mage, only for Asta to yell, "Don't, Rika!" She would then stop right before her claws reach her face, and the pressure would dissipate, and a shockwave would blow back everyone slightly, just from her trying to stop her own attack. "What is that thing?" Rika would then slowly turn, saying, "Sorry." "It's okay," Asta would say. "I'm not mad, Rika, but I'm supposed to fight her, you know?" Rika would then nod as Faguna then asks, "Do you have it under control?" Asta slowly turns around to see everyone just like ready to fight, but also they're scared as hell. And he would say, "Don't worry, Rika doesn't bite. Well, if you don't piss her off, she doesn't bite." The queen would then disappear, and Asta would walk forward as he starts to leak an even more dangerous aura, asking the girl if she was ready to fight. But Faguna would then say, "Stop. She has lost consciousness." "You win, young man." Asta, hearing this, then turns, saying, "Alright then, sorry about the trouble." He then walks back to the crowd, and quickly everyone makes way for him as he then goes and sits down with a sigh of relief. Note to self, avoid female opponents. After this, nothing everyone else does in their fight was as impressive or as domineering, not even Yuto. He did easily win his fight and show impressive magic, but Asta was just the main star today. After all the fights finished, the selection then began, and every single person that came up was rejected, to the point where despair had filled the Coliseum. The captains didn't even bat an eye, and when they were disqualifying people, it was like they were just saying, "Just get out of here." Nothing special was showing up. That is until Yuto came up, and instantly they all raised their hands, putting a smile on Yuno's face. "I choose the Golden Dawn," Yuto would say. "Wow, he really got all hands," they would be saying, as Vanus would then smile, saying he can come to his squad indeed, and Yuno would then nod as he walks off and putting a thumbs up to Asta, who would then come up. But before he could even say, before the captains made the decision, Noelle would then stand, saying, "Before you make a decision, what are you?" These words have power and boldness behind them, befitting the captain of the Silver Eagles, but Asta responds with a light-hearted laugh. "I don't really know how to answer that. Can you be more specific?" "What was that creature?" Noelle would ask. Asta with a smile would then say, "Rika, you can come out now." As they hear this, everyone gets on guard, but then Rika, as she resurfaces, has no malicious aura, and it's not even present, so she's not really as scary, but she does look really scary. And Asta then says, "I'm a cursed energy user. This is Rika. You could say she's like my summoning." Rika then nods to this, as Noelle would then ask how that would be even possible, because he has no magic, and Asta then answers by saying, "What I have is far more natural than magic. Cursed energy stems from the most negative emotions a human can harbor. I turn my hate, fear, anything negative into power." He then holds his hand out and it would explode with cursed energy, and they cannot believe what they're seeing. "This is cursed energy," Asta says. While of course not comfortable with what any of them just heard, it is so intriguing that they just couldn't help but keep staring at the energy flowing out, because it seems so gritty and raw and just so powerful. "You've seen enough," Noelle would say, as he then goes and sits back down, and he's the first to raise his hand, and the same goes for everyone else, as Rika would then smile, telling Yuta that he did it. "Seems like I did," Asta would say. "If you didn't get all hands, I'd be disappointed, thanks." Asta, however, instead of choosing the Golden Dawn like everyone expected, looks to Yami, saying, "I would like to join the Bulls." Everyone is wide-eyed, with Yami then grinning as he asks, "You do know who we are, right?" "Nope, not at all." This dumbfounds the crowd, as especially the captains, who then ask Yami if he scouted Asta ahead of time, but Asta says no. "I just like his sword. It's very reminiscent of my own." Could this somehow be related, Noelle thought? Yami would then say, "Well, good thing I like weirdos like you. Keep Rika under control, though." Asta would nod, and we then fade to black. As night falls and many start to leave with their captains, Asta and Yuno would be saying goodbye with a hug. "Let's go on a mission from time to time, okay?" Yuno would say, and Asta says, "Sure thing." And then they stop hugging, and the two would part ways with no words needed, and Asta then looks to see Nero still with him. Just pray that Rika doesn't get jealous, Asta thinks, and this is when he is met by Finro and Gordon, who he says hi to. "You were pretty great out there, kid. Do you really have no magic?" "Not even a lick," Asta would say. Gordon then whispers that's impressive, and Asta hears it saying, "Thank you." Gordon is surprised, as his Finro would then ask if he can really hear him, to which he nods, just as Yami walks over and says to make a portal. Quickly, Finro would do so, as the group then steps into it and come out on the other side, seeing a forest, and there was the Black Bolt base, and as usual, it is left in ruins by the antics of its members. Isn't this a bit banged up?" Asta would say. "Well, welcome to the lowest of the low, kid," Yami would say. Asta would laugh at this, saying it sounds like fun, and as he walks forward and they approach, a giant explosion goes off, taking the front gate, which then flies at them, but they quickly dodge. But then they continue to walk and soon reach the smoke, and through it, they arrive to see the craziness inside. Maybe I should scare them a bit, Asta thought, as he then breathes in, and then he releases a giant, well, not a giant, a faint amount of cursed energy, which freezes everyone in their tracks as a flying luck then falls before then turning to see Asta waving to him and everyone. Sorry about that, just wanted to get your attention. All the Black Bulls are confused by what they just felt, but they are quickly told by Yami to gather up, and so they do, as he then explains that Asta will be joining them. As you can tell, he has no magic. Wait, seriously, Vanessa would say? Then what was that? Luck then says Asta looks very strong, to which he scratches the back of his head in embarrassment. And this is when he also remembers Nero, and he points to her while introducing her since she wrote out her name for him. And while he waited for Yamini to finish taking a dump, he got to at least say, like, they kind of communicated in a way. Charmy would then say, "Oh, she's so cute. Do you want a cookie?" She then puts one out for Nero, and Asta takes it and gives it to her. She starts to nibble on it, making the bulls blush at her adorableness. But of course, Ghosh only has Marie in his mind. Magna would then say, hey, I don't know who you are. I don't care if you got no magic. You're strong, right? When needed, yes, Asta would say. Good. Then let's start the baptism. Moments later, the bulls gather outside, and while Asta and Magna stare each other down, the other bulls watch from a couch they pulled out, and they tell Magna to go easy, but Yami instead says, hey, newbie, no cursed energy, just physical strength. Can you do that? Asta then turns, and while being surprised, he then says, sure, and the others ask if that's really a good idea, and if he really has nothing special to fight with, and how did he even make it here? Hey, Captain, what's cursed energy? Luck would ask. It's what scared the hell out of you a few minutes ago. Hearing this, they look back at the fight intrigued, with Mana starting to sweat as he then thinks, he's really gonna fight me barehanded? Well, I'm not holding back, got it? Try to stay alive. As his grimoire shines, a fire bat will be formed in his hands, and he creates a ball of fire, which he then strikes with incredible force, causing it to pierce the air and be sent flying at Asta, who in response to this, much to everyone's shock, would punch through and disperse it, before then closing the distance between him and Magna in seconds. What the hell, everyone thought? Asta then cocks back his fist and barrages Magna with multiple punches in seconds until his magic deactivates, and he would stop, but Magna then fall into his knees. This leaves the bulls completely astonished as Magna, while half asleep, then says, not bad, newbie. He then starts to fall, but Asta catches him just as he hears cheering and turns to see the Black Bulls just group tackle him. That was amazing, kid. What the hell's your routine? How can you punch like that? Can we fight next? Luck would ask, and they start hounding him with these like mini questions and statements. But if anything, Yuta, aka Asta, never felt more at home. As this happens, we then go to Noelle standing from the top of the base as she watches in the absolute surprise at what just happened. Just what is he? She thought. Cut to a few minutes later, Asta would then be running behind Magna in his Black Bull robe, but it is slightly different. Asta made it to match his uniform that he had in his past life, so it was all black, but with a Black Bull logo all over it. Seriously, Asta, that was manly as hell, Magna would say, and Asta says, thanks, I'm just surprised you're so chill about all this though. Hey, we're all commoners here, we gotta support each other. But you do have something akin to magic, right? That's what Yami said. Captain Yami, my bad. And this is when Asta would then now saying it's called cursed energy. And while Magna shows him around, Asta proceeds to explain what it is and how he was able to draw it out. When they reach the beast cage, Magna would then say, no wonder. I do have an actual grimoire though. I found it. Asta's words are then cut short when he notices Noelle enter the premises with a cold stone look. Oh, so this is where you were, Magna would say. Asta, say hi to her. She's a newbie too. Hearing this, Asta would then walk up to her and put his hand out, introducing himself and his background, which was a bad idea as Noelle would then smack away his hand and refuse his gesture. Who do you think you're talking to? I am Noelle Silva. Noble blood runs through my veins, so watch yourself. Oh, okay, Asta would say. This response confuses Noelle and Magna as Asta then walks back to Magna, asking if they had any training room of sorts. He's a bit more mature, Magna would think, as he can't get mad from this and he knows that he has to look good in front of his kohai. So he ignores Noelle as much as she annoys him before then putting his arm around Asta, telling him that they don't have a training place, but he has a spot somewhere near the forest that he usually uses. Hey, stop! Where do you think you're going? Noelle would ask, and the two then stop confused as Asta would then turn, saying, well, you don't want to talk to me, right? This flusters Noelle, who would begin to blush and point her wand to the two, and she explodes with mana, putting Magna on guard, but as she fires a water ball, it curves at the last minute and hits the beast cage, causing them to snarl at Noelle, who falls to the ground in fear. Asta then runs to her worried, and with an extended hand, he would ask, are you good? Filled with embarrassment and anger, she would quickly smack his hand away once again, before then standing on her own and ripping off her Black Bull robe. I don't want anything to do with this order anymore. She then walks away, with Mana honestly being confused and pissed that she just treated the robe like trash, but Asta can somewhat guess that she is insecure about something. I don't know much about Mana, but when it comes to reading people, cursed energy is the best. That attack had no ill intent, Asta thinks. Fade to black. The next day quickly comes, and Asta is told to clean the house, wake up Yami, and then feed the beast. After he finishes doing all of this, he then walks out with summoning a katana to his hand, along with his anti-magic grimoire. Let's see what you're made of, he would think. As he walks out, however, he is soon kind of distracted, and his ears pick up something, switching his directions, and while hiding his presence, he watches Noelle from the bushes as she continuously misses many attacks. Well, she's not exactly the most talented, is she? She's not trained enough, Asta would think. One more, Noelle would say, as despite being surrounded by many craters that reflected her many failed attempts to hit one tree in front of her, Noelle persevered and kept trying, but she kept missing until Asta had enough and decided to help. He would walk out from the bushes, and quickly Noelle turns to see him, and she was startled by the ruffling of the leaves. If you want, I can give you some pointers, Asta says. I promise I don't bite. He then puts on a friendly smile easy to try to ease her paranoia, but many thoughts flood her head as she would then say, "Stay away." She points to Asta with her wand as her magic gathers, creating a giant ball of water. But as this is set in motion, a ring will then appear around Asta's finger, and a strange mark forms around his lips, and he opens his mouth. Deactivate. In this instant, a sound wave then ripples out and hits Noelle, whose magic would then be halted, making her drop her water bowl, which splashes her with water. Noelle would say, "How did you—" The ring and marks disappear as Asta would then come to Noelle and would slap her on the head, making her wince in pain. "Listen to me, you brat! Ow! Why?" Noelle would yell, and Asta would say, "It's because you're not listening. Now, let me help you." As she looks up, what Noelle had interpreted as a two-faced smile was Asta's pure determination to help her, but she was still in disbelief. But today, she was going to take a leap of faith. Inside the House of the Bulls, just as everyone is kind of resting and barely starting to wake up, they are startled by a huge explosion of mana and quickly run out to find Noelle forming a gigantic fireball of water that towered over their base and was far larger than it. "Wow, you have so much magic," Luck would say, being amazed obviously, and the entire group is frankly shocked by this huge concentration of mana, and what they see is that Asta was sort of helping her by putting his hand on her back, but they didn't know what exactly he was doing. "What is this? It's like all my worries are leaving my body," Noelle thought. "How does it feel?" Asta would ask, and Noelle responds by saying it feels calm. "Good, because you still need control." "Look," Asta says. It confused Noelle then looks to see the water ball getting out of control, and everyone says that she really needs some practice. "Well, I don't know how to stop it. Sorry," Noelle would say. Asta, however, then walks past her saying not to worry, as he then throws his grimoire into the air and leaps into the air after it, causing a shockwave to push everyone back, as he then bursts with cursed energy. As he reaches the grimoire, it shines with a blood-red energy and opens up to pop out a hilt, which Asta grabs, yanking out a katana. And a slight thrust, Asta thinks, as he would then thrust forward and releases a piercing wave of anti-magic, which will rip through the water ball, making it explode and once again leave the group astonished. Anti-magic, huh, Yami thought. This kid's getting more and more interesting. Asta after this would then land back down, putting away his anti-magic sword, well katana, and his grimoire then closes and then goes back to his satchel. "See, whenever you want to practice, just call me. I mean, you'll get used to it eventually though, right?" Asta says. See Asta smile at this moment as the droplets of water start to fall is when Noelle falls for Asta, and with a red face she would then nod and thank him. We're going to fade to black once again. A few days after this, Noelle has stopped keeping her distance and actually hangs out with the group. While she still acts pompous at times, it does not come from a place of hate anymore. She also has gotten into the routine of training, and Asta is the only person who can help her in the best way, not in terms of magic, but casting, because he calms her down when he's around. Vanessa also starts teaching her some things, and now that's how she starts to actually learn magic. Asta's just there as support, a really good support. Noelle also learned that within this group of misfits, she's fine if she fails a bit, so that makes her at ease because they're not nobles or anything, and they don't care about her status, and now it's vice versa because she sees them for who they are. Days later, we find the bulls actually eating in the dining room, but Asta was absent. When Noelle then asked where he was, Vanessa would then say, "Oh, why do you care so much?" Noelle then gets red, saying, "What? I just want to know. Can I know? Can I not know?" Everyone then chuckles at her embarrassment as they can already tell she has a thing for Asta, but Charmy says that he went out to do missions and Gordon joined him as well, and Noelle would then say, "Gordon senpai, but how can they work together if he can't speak?" It's just that Gordon can't speak, Magna would say. Asta is just so physically strong that he's the only one who can hear him. That's kind of insane, Noelle would say. I wonder what his training routine is like. Plenty of push-ups. It's an instant buff, Asta would say, as he then walks back in with Gordon behind him, and the group would then look to him with excitement as they asked if he actually got to do much. Well, first off, I still would say, there's this. He holds his hand out, holding 5 stars, and the group is wide-eyed, just as Yami then walks in, saying, straight from the big man himself, "You met the Wizard King?" Noelle would ask. "Yeah, he's a strange fellow," Asta says. "But regardless, now we have these, so now we're at negative 25 stars. Wait, what?" Noelle would say. "Oh yeah, we were at negative 30 stars, but now we're getting back to the positives." This really should not be something that's normal for a Magic Knight to say, guys, Noelle would say. We're now going to have another time skip. 2 days later, Asta is getting 4 more stars, bringing them to negative 21 stars. So on the 3rd day, Noelle asked to come along on a mission because she wanted some of the action, and Magna wanted to loosen up a little bit, so he came as well. Their request came at a very good time because Yami got a mission from an old man who wanted them to clean up some boys at Saussy village. They arrive fast on Magna's crazy cyclone and quickly get to work. Using his katana, Asta then slashes through through boar after boar, while Magna will then slam their snouts with his fire bat, and Noelle hits them with her water lances. "Not bad, you can somewhat fight now," Asta would say. "I think that's all of them, right?" Noelle would ask. Asta then nods, but then a change occurs in his eyes, and instantly he would have disappeared in the blink of an eye, much to the surprise of the two, but they hear his voice ahead of them, telling them to follow him. As they run after him, Magna will then ask what's wrong, and Asta yells, "You'll see when we get there." Running further and further, he soon enters a cloud of mist until a wall made of mist finds itself in his way, and with a quick slash, he strikes down, ripping through it as his cursed energy then explodes in a large burst and catches the attention of Heath and his men inside, as well as the villagers. They look to the right just as Asta arrives on the scene, and he looks around, inspecting what was going on. Hostage villagers, an ice spell prepared. They seem somewhat strong, but it should be fine if I handle them. "Who are you?" Heath would ask, as he then uses another spell, releasing a storm of icicles towards him, but he raises katana in this instant, which explodes with cursed energy, and in the blink of an eye, he appears right before Heath, with his icicles exploding, and they shock Heath and his men, or then punched in the stomach simultaneously, before them falling over with their mouths just foaming. With their defeat, the spell that Heath has prepared to kill the villagers becomes undone, and the villagers look up to see what the icicles shatter. "Thank you so much," they be saying, as the village chief would then bow, as do the others, and Asta quickly runs over, saying that they need to stay still. "You're pretty hurt, just give me a moment." He raises his hand, and it bursts with transparent energy, just as Magna and Noelle then arrive on the scene to see Asta envelop these people with reverse cursed energy. And quickly their wounds close, not even leaving behind a slight scar, no nothing, there's no gash. "That should do it," Asta would say. "Anyone feel weird anywhere?" The villagers are amazed by this, and the chief will then stand and say that they are grateful to the bulls. "But why were they here?" Asta would ask. "They said they were looking for a certain stone." As he says this, Nera would then fly back to Asta. She was with him the entire time, and then she left. And she would fly back to Asta and lie on his head with a red crystal in her mouth. And the chief would then say that must be what they meant. "All for a red stone?" Magna would ask. Can we have it? Giving this to you means nothing compared to what you've done, so please take it as a gift. I wish I could give you much more." Magna would then thank the man and say that they have nothing else to give to them. They're just happy that they're alive, and they will go report this, and they need to leave right now. Asta then walks over to the captives, and using cursed energy, cursed speech, he then tells them to go to sleep, and as they do so, the mark will then disappear, with the villagers saying he's very powerful, but how come he doesn't have any magic? Asta hears their mumbling, and he tries to address it, but they nervously apologize, to which he says it's okay, it's okay. Much like how mages have magic, I have cursed energy, and just like mages have elements, I have cursed techniques. Consider them a random assortment of powerful abilities formed for my desires. "Then how many techniques do you have?" Noelle would ask. Asta only smiles, saying that it would take way too long to explain all of them, and then he would utter the name Rika. And from behind him then forms Rika, which terrifies everyone just seeing it, and she proceeds to pick up the men, and Asta then says that they should leave now. "Oh, right, I forgot to introduce you. This is Rika. Rika, that's Noelle. Don't attack her. That's Magna Senpai. Those are the villagers we just helped." Rika would then say hi, as the baffled group then waved back, with Asta saying it's really complicated, and again, it would take way too long to explain. And this is where we end the first part. Welcome to the end of the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed this first part. Hopefully I didn't disappoint you with how it came out. I really tried my best here to bring that little scary element of Rika, because she just pops up whenever she feels Yuta is in trouble, even though it's not the original Rika. Go read the manga. And also, of course, I put the spoiler warning at the beginning, so whether or not you watch this, it's up to you. But those of you who did watch, regardless of getting spoiled or because you read the manga, thank you, and have a great day. I am going to just take my time and relax, I guess, because I got nothing else better to do. And the next video after this will be what if Asta was Itachi's reincarnation. Sorry, I know I've been saying it for a while, but it's really hard to continue this because I don't know how much more crazy I can make Asta's abilities be as a reincarnation of one of the strongest shinobi ever to live. But I will get to it, and I'm planning something that's going to be insane, so get ready for that. And don't forget to like and subscribe, do all that stuff, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much, Golden What-Ifs and my boy Crown Fiend, and I will do my best to finish this challenge as efficiently as possible and as fast as possible at the same time. Alright, peace.